Okay, so I think everyone has arrived. We have just about 1 minute left, but I think everybody who signed up is here, so we can go ahead and get started. As I said, you might want to make sure that there's a little room on either side of your mat. This practice is exploratory and playful, and it's not like the yoga practice where we will stay on the mat the whole time. We're going to be doing a little bit of rolling, and so just make sure you're not going to roll into anything. The only other thing you might need is a folded blanket, and this is just for a pillow. This practice, we like to be as comfortable as possible, so we would just put that under your head when you're lying on your back, if you want that. So why did I pick somatics for today's special New Year's Day class? The reason I picked it is because it is a very wonderful exploration of the self. And I think that we all have the inclination to set intention for the new year. And it's really important to know where we are, right, to set intention for the future. Self-reflection is key to personal growth. There's never a time in which we as humans thrive in long periods of stagnation, and change is one of the few absolutes of being born human on this planet. So we can always expect change, and the more aware we are of where we're at in the process of change, the more we can direct where we want to go. Somatic movement is a beautiful vehicle to do that self-reflective work. We must know and be aware of where we are in the present. Excuse me, looks like somebody else. Oh, good. Hi, Adele. Hi, Samantha. So just talking about how somatics is a great tool for self-exploration and self-reflection as a way to be really specific about our intention and where we want to go in our process. For setting an authentic intention on our personal journey, we have to do this self-reflective work. Somatics asks us to arrive fully in our multidimensional self, to go deeper into the quality of our present expression on all layers. And when we think about ourselves as a whole, we can think about the many layers of the being. First is the physical layer, the physical experience, the body. The second is the quality of our breath and the energetic movement, energetic flow of the body. The next layer is the task-oriented mind. This is the layer of us that keeps us moving through the day. The next layer is the higher mind, or the knower of the self. And finally, the layer of our connection with all that is, our faith, our oneness, our sense of our place in the universe. As we enter into this practice, I ask that you fully give yourself over to interospection. Interospection is the loving exploration of all those layers we just talked about. So the physical, the energetic and the breath, the task-oriented mind, the higher or knowing mind, and finally the connection with all that is. So I ask that you enter into this fully giving yourself over from a loving place. If you have ever felt disconnected from any of those layers, from yourself, physically, energetically, mentally, or spiritually, you're not alone. We all have periods of feeling disconnected, and this practice helps to reconnect us. My intention is that today's practice begin the process or continue the process of connecting to yourself in a very authentic way. It is from this place of connectedness and wholeness that all else becomes possible. So in the somatic practice, I'm just going to give you a few tips before we get started. Move slowly and gently. So this is not yoga. Somatics is a different practice. We really want to move as slowly and as smoothly and gently as possible. And I'm going to give an example. In this practice, we don't move into pain. And in most practices, of course, yoga too, we ask that we don't move into pain. That's the body speaking to us. But I'm just going to give you an example of how we might approach pain, the sensation of pain in this practice. So for instance, if the direction was to draw the elbow across the body and you felt a twinge of pain in your deltoid or in your bicep, I would have you meet the edge of that pain and then move out of it and then come back. And you might start to feel that place where you experienced pain before, and you wouldn't quite go there. You would just come up to the edge of where you felt it last time, and then you would back out, and then you would come back in. And you might start to explore, oh, there's more movement now. That pain, the spot where pain happened before, is now a little bit further. And so you would start to explore that. So that is how somatics would have you approach pain if any pain comes up in this practice. The third tip is to refrain from judgment. Set your intention to be present and witness from a place of love. So you might experience emotions or thoughts that come up as we move. And I would just ask that you bring yourself to a loving witness perspective and try to leave self-judgment behind. Disregard aesthetics. So in yoga, we know what the shape is supposed to look like, and we want to mimic that shape, right? We know what a warrior pose looks like, and we want to try to mimic that. In this practice, just let go of the aesthetics. So there's no need to have it look the way that my pose might look. And in fact, in somatics classes, live somatics classes, they often don't demonstrate what the shapes or movements look like. They actually only give the verbal cues. And that's to prevent people from trying to match the aesthetic. It's not about how it looks, it's about how it feels for you. So if your shape looks very different than mine, or you've modified in some other way, that's great. So just let go of what it's supposed to look like. And then the last thing I would say is to make yourself very comfortable. This practice is supposed to feel good. It's supposed to feel like a pleasurable experience. And so that means using the blanket for your head, for instance. So just taking the steps to make yourself really comfortable. So with all of that being said, there's a couple of people that joined a little later. So I just want to say again that you want to have some space on either side of your mat. A blanket would be the only prop you might need. And I'm going to have you lie on your back to get started. And throughout the practice, this is where you're going to return if at any point you need to just rest or stop or feel, just come back to the Shavasana-like position on your mat. So lying down, arms long by your sides, and let the eyes drop closed. And just give yourself a moment to come in to yourself, to catch up with yourself. Imagine you are lying on the beach. You can smell the ocean breeze. You can hear the waves. You can feel the warm air on your skin. Bring your awareness to the back of the head And just notice the imprint in the sand that the back of the head makes. And now move to your upper back and notice first your right shoulder blade and the imprint that it leaves. And then move down the torso along the right side arm and hand. Notice your right hip, right leg, just noticing the imprint that it leaves in the sand. And then notice your left shoulder blade, left arm, left side of the torso, left hip, left leg, left foot. Notice the imprint that the left side of the body leaves in the sand. Imagine if you could get up and look back at your body imprint in the sand and just take a moment to understand the weight of the different parts of your body on the surface below. When you're ready, bend both knees. We're going to start with something called arch and flatten. We'll just begin by tilting the pelvis so that your tailbone reaches toward the floor. And as you do this, you'll notice that the spine arches gently. And then do the opposite. Begin to draw the belly toward the spine and flatten your back toward the floor. And just move through this a couple of times. Begin to arch and flatten. And just begin to notice how this movement travels up the body and allow the movement to travel. So if you bring your awareness to the upper back and neck, you might find that your head naturally moves as part of this practice, as part of this movement. So go ahead and let that chain reaction happen. And it might be that when you flatten your back toward the floor, your chin lifts a little bit. And then when you arch the back, maybe the chin comes toward the chest. And just let your breath be full and easy. No need to worry about matching it to your movement unless you desire to. You could explore that, inhaling in one position and exhaling in the other. And now we're just going to add the jaw to this movement. So as the chin lifts, let the lips part and the jaw open. And then as the chin comes down to the chest, gently let the jaw close. So it might just be a tiny little movement, just matching the jaw movement to the movement in the spine. And then pause. Let your body settle. Notice. So we come to this resting position in between the movements of the somatics. And this is our moment to explore the layers, right? The physical layer, the breath, notice the breath, notice the mind, notice your sense of connectedness, just checking in. Now bring your hands to your hip points. So your fingertips rest on the hip points. You're just going to draw your right hip up toward your right ribs. Basically, you're shortening the space between your right hip point and your right lower ribs. So just explore that. Bring the right hip up and then release. So you're just shortening that little space, and you can kind of feel with your fingertips what that movement is like and how it affects the rest of the body. Shortening and then just release. Shorten the space and just release. This is your movement. Go ahead and explore. Sometimes these small movements allow us to learn such big things about our bodies and about our sensation. Now pause, and you're going to go the other way. So think about moving your right hip point away from your right lower ribs. So now you're expanding the space on the right side of the body. And go ahead and move through that. Exploring, noticing sensation, noticing breath. And then come to stillness. Rest, notice, feel. Now we'll move to the other side. Left hip point toward left low ribs, shortening the space between the left hip point and the left lower ribs. And then pause. And we're going to do left hip point away from ribs, expanding the space between the left hip and the left lower ribs. The set of movements that we're about to come into involve the hips. And this is a great exploration of how the pelvis is related to the torso and the upper body. Pause from your movement. Notice, feel. And then we're just going to march the hips. So right hip forward, left hip forward, fingertips on the hip points kind of help you explore this movement a little more. It's like you're marching in place. You might get some information about the natural alignment of your hips. Does one feel naturally higher than the other or forward from the other one? Again, we're not coming with judgment. We're just noticing. The more we know about our whole being, the more we can make authentic intention for our journey. And then come to stillness. And feel, rest. Bring your left foot off the mat and take your right hand to the sole of the foot. So you're holding your left foot with your right hand. And just begin to bend and straighten the leg. And I say straighten lightly because most of us are not going to get a straight leg, but bending and straightening from the knee. Extending the foot toward the ceiling and then bringing it down toward the body. You can think of the movement that way. And see about exploring the different areas of movement in the hips. So maybe take the foot over to the right side of your body more and explore what that is like. And then maybe take the foot in line with your center line of your body and explore what that movement's like. And then take the foot over to the left more and explore what that movement's like. Just be really present with the sensation in the arm, in the leg, in the hip, and just explore. And the movements don't have to be your super biggest movement. As I said before, sometimes we learn a lot from small movement. So try maybe moving just a little tiny bit. See what that's like. And then you can try moving really big, seeing what that's like. What sensation is there? Remember, if you find pain, we never are going to push into that. We're going to stop at the edge of pain and explore the space in front of the pain and see if that pain moves. See if the spot that might have some painful sensation might move through the exploration of the space in front of it. And then release your foot down to the mat and just breathe, rest, and feel. Notice your left side versus your right side. Just notice how maybe the imprint of the sacrum feels a little different. Now we're going to take the left hand and bring it behind the head. Left hand behind the head. Right hand, hold your foot again. So bend the knee, hold your left foot in your right hand. Your left hand is behind the head. Begin to straighten and bend just like we did before. But this time, when the leg straightens a bit, lift the head and shoulders. And this is the movement. And again, maybe you go for your biggest lift. Maybe the whole shoulders come up. And then maybe you explore just a tiny little lift, maybe just the head. And again, this is a process of exploration, so we're not going for the same exact movement each time. We don't have to worry about what this looks like. Again, it's not about the aesthetics, it's about the interospection, so the inner experience of the movement. So think about giving yourself a big palette to explore. Change it up, change the rhythm, change the size of the movement, change the direction. And then release and relax. Knees are bent. Feel, rest. Notice the two sides of the body and the imprint in the sand. Now roll onto your left side and come up to a seat. Bring the soles of the feet together, knees out to the sides. And it doesn't matter how close your feet are to the pelvis. So we're not going for the yoga version of the pose. This is really just can be a nice big diamond shape. Should be comfortable. Bring your hands behind you, fingertips point back, just kind of giving yourself something to lean back on. And we're going to come into what I call slouching position. So roll the belly toward the spine and draw the chin down. So your shoulders kind of come forward like you're just slouching. The spine is a little bit round. And then begin to do the opposite. So roll your tail toward the floor, start there, and begin to arch the spine, eventually looking up, maybe release the head. Really slowly begin to go the other way. So it's almost like a cat-cow kind of motion in the spine. And this is your movement. Go ahead and explore. One thing I like to explore here is, what if I change the breath? So in yoga, we would always take a big inhale as we open the chest and exhale as we come into the rounded spine. So you could try that a couple times. Feels pretty delicious. And then what if you exhaled when the spine was arched and the chest was open? Empty out the breath. And then as you round, take a big breath in. Feel what that feels like. Very different. So just explore and move slow, gentle, smooth. And then just rest for a moment. Bring your left foot in front of your right. So coming into an easy seat, easy cross-legged seat. You can let the eyes close or soften if you like, just feeling. Now we're going to take both hands to the left foot and extend the leg. And again, I say extend or straighten, but it doesn't have to straighten all the way. As the leg straightens, maybe the chin comes to the chest a little bit, and then bend and lift the gaze. So any size movement here is great. We could go really big, really extend, really round the spine, or we can go little. So maybe not even extend it all the way. And again, find some exploration. What does it feel like to take the knee further out to the left as you do this? What does it feel like to line the foot up with the center line of the body? What does it feel like to take it further across the body so you're more straightening your leg out to the right? Again, this is not about what it looks like or if you're doing it right or wrong. It's about feeling into the movement. And then just sit in your cross-legged seat once you feel complete in that movement. And then we'll come onto the back again. And take your legs long. We're going back to the Shavasana shape. Just feel for a moment. And now we're going to get a little playful and do a little rolling here. So bend your knees, soles of feet on the mat, and you're just going to start with your right leg. Walk your feet further apart, so inch your feet out toward the edges of the mat a little bit. And starting with the right leg, just let it roll into the center or drop into the center and come back. So start to feel this internal rotation of the leg, right leg, falling in and coming back, falling in and coming back. A couple more times. And then take both hands to your left foot. We've been here before, except we're using both hands this time. Both hands to the left foot. And then rock side to side. So this is your exploration here. You're just rocking over to the right and over to the left. And nice ways to explore this is to take the foot up closer to the chest and chin and explore what that is like. And then take the foot down closer to your pelvis and feel what that's like. Just exploring the side to side rocking. You might feel your pelvis, back of the pelvis rocking, a little massage for your low back can feel nice. Now we're going to tie these two things together. Remember the right leg came in toward the center. So you're going to take the right knee and let it drop toward the center. And then holding onto the foot, roll to the left, pressing into your foot. Maybe you come up to a seat. And the first time you try this, it might not even happen. Might not happen at all. But we're going to explore rolling. So I'm going to take my body back down to the floor and roll back onto my back. And then take the right knee in. That really helps. Rounding the spine really helps as well. And rolling onto the shoulder helps. So think about right knee falling in. That's going to give us the momentum. I'm rolling over onto the left foot and coming up to the feet. And remember, I said you might need a little extra space because we're going to roll off the mat. We're going to do this on both sides. So just think about the space you have and explore. Maybe one or two more attempts at rolling up to a seat. It sometimes feels more challenging than it looks. And you'll find that it's more challenging one side to the other. At least it is in my body. So we're just going to the left this time. And the next time you come onto your back, rest. Find your mat again. Bend your knees. Let your hands just rest on your hip points and feel. And we're just going to do a very tiny little pelvic tilt here. So hands on your hip points and tilt the pelvis up and roll it down. Just a little tiny pelvic tilt. And then let your legs go long and notice your imprint in the sand. Explore specifically the left side of your body. So if you can imagine a divider coming down through the top of the head and dividing right down through the pelvis, your awareness is fully in the left side of your body and the left imprint in the sand, the left side imprint in the sand. And now switch your awareness to the right side of your body and just let yourself be fully present with the right side of your body and the right side imprint in the sand. And now experience your body as a whole. Remove the divider. Experience your body as a whole. Even though it may feel different one side to the other, allow yourself to embrace the differences. And then bend your knees. Soles of the feet on the mat. Lift your right foot off the mat. Hold your right foot with your left hand. And begin to straighten and bend. And maybe begin to explore the position of the foot. Bring the foot farther over to the left. Straighten and bend in this angle. Line your heel up with the center line of the body. Straighten and bend at this angle. Then maybe take your knee over toward the floor more so that you're shifting the whole leg and foot over toward the right, and explore this movement, this angle. And remember to explore size of movement. So maybe the biggest movement you can get, straightest leg you can get, and then maybe teeny tiny, just an itty bitty little bend and straighten. And then release and take your foot to the floor and just feel, rest, and breathe. And we're going to take the same position, left hand to the foot. You can hold the sole of the foot or the top of the foot, whatever works for you. This time, right hand behind the head. And we're going to start to straighten and bend the leg just as we did before. But this time we're going to add the lift of the head. Little flexion in the spine. And remember, once you figure out your movement, so we kind of go in increments here. We remember what the movement is that we're going to be exploring, and then we'll change it up. So maybe just a tiny lift of the head and a straighten of the leg, and then maybe go as deep as you can go. And remember to play angles. Notice, the body holds on to all of our and emotions. So sometimes when we start to move an area of the body, we'll have memories, thoughts, emotions that to open the bag, be present with it, notice it, and then release from the movement.
Something's going on with your microphone.
You can't hear me?
No, I think you were I think you were rubbing your microphone, Emily, so it was just causing some disturbance.
Okay, thank you. All right, so on the back, just in rest, I'll try to be aware of my location of that microphone and just feel into your body. And then you're gonna roll onto your side and come up again onto a seat. Take your time arriving. Soles of feet touching, hands behind you, fingertips point away. Again, the position of the feet in relation to the pelvis can be as comfortable as you want, as far away as is comfortable in your hips. And we'll do the same as we did on the other side or the last time through. Round the spine, you're coming into a bit of a slouching position. And then start with the pelvis. Begin to roll the pelvis forward. Let the spine arch, release the head. That's your movement, that's your exploration. Move as slow and smooth and gentle as you can. A nice exploration here would be to angle your chin off to one side or the other. So you basically shift the direction of your nose and chin. Will change the sensation. Again, maybe play with breath, where you breathe, where you inhale, where you exhale. No right or wrong. And then just sit up tall when you're finished. Feel. And we'll come to the easy seat with right leg in front. And hold onto your foot with your hands. And begin to straighten and bend. And don't forget to explore, move around. And you can really round the spine, tuck the chin in with a big press of the leg. Or you can make it tiny. You want to take the foot over to the right, over to the left, big, little whole body movements, little movements that don't include the spine. Just feel into the leg, the hip, the arms. Notice maybe sometimes the motion comes from straightening the leg, activating from the hip. Maybe you could do it with just using the arms more than you're using the leg. And then just sit in your easy seat for a moment. And then come back onto your back. Take your legs long, Shavasana shape. And then bend the knees again. Walk the feet farther apart, maybe out to the edges. And we'll start with that left leg. Let it fall in toward the center and then come back. Left leg falls in and come back. Little rocking motion. Explore how this feels in your torso, in your hip. And then come to stillness. We're going to take both hands to the right foot and rock side to side. And remember, some of the exploring we did on the other side was to take the foot up closer to the chest and face and feel what that feels like. And then take the foot closer down toward the legs and pelvis and feel what that feels like. Really bend the knee and feel if that's any different than having the knee slightly straighter. And then come to stillness. We're going to tie the two movements together so that we can do that roll up to a seat, or at least explore it. You don't have to make it all the way up to a seat, but explore the rolling to the right. So the left knee will fall in. That will help you with the momentum. You'll roll over onto the right and maybe make your way up to a seat. And if you need to use a hand, you can. Remember, this is not about doing it right or doing it wrong. See if you can roll up and roll down so that you feel a lot of the floor in contact with the body. I find one side to be easier than the other, so that's just part of my exploration and experience. Maybe it's not true for you. Maybe it is. Give yourself a couple more times. I really like to spend a little time here because I find it changes with each try. And then the next time you find yourself on your mat, take your legs long. And just feel. Feel into that right side. So return to the divider. We place the divider from the crown of the head down through the pelvis and just allow your awareness to be fully in your right side. So feeling into the right side from the foot to the hip, to the right side of the torso, to the right shoulder, to the right hand, and even the right side of the head, imprint in the sand. And then just allow your awareness to return over to the left and experience the left foot, the left hip, the left side of the torso and ribs, the left shoulder and arm, and the left side of the head, back of the head. And then remove the divider and experience the body as a whole, reintegrating your experience of the body. And think about maybe if your imprint in the sand feels any different than it did when we started the practice. Now the next little set we're going to do is also a rolling set. And we're going to start in an X shape. So wide legs, arms up overhead in an X shape. So wide V with arms and legs. And just give yourself a moment to feel what this feels like. Notice how taking this new shape lying on the ground with the arms and the legs changes how your body meets the mat. Maybe the hips meet the mat in a different way. Maybe the shoulders meet the mat in a different way. Begin to bend your right leg. Bend your right leg and slide your right knee up toward the right side of the body. So it's close to the floor. And then begin to bring your knee in front of the body and then cross the body. And as you cross the body, allow your torso to begin to roll so that you roll onto your belly. And then when you find yourself on the belly, arms are outstretched in front of you, lift the chest, slide your right leg over the left. So we're going to start to roll back onto the back, but the hips are going first. So keep your chest as close to the floor as possible, and then start to let the upper body roll. So you come back onto the X. Now that's the movement. I'll talk you through it again, but you can roll from your back to your belly as an exploration without getting too caught up in how it's supposed to be done. Bend the knee, take the knee out to the right, bring it in front of the body, let it start to cross over to the left. And as it does, let it pull your torso and you come on to your belly. Lift the chest, press into the hands, right leg slides back over the left, and see if you can let this twist happen nice and slow. And you just come onto your back. So let this be playful. Again, don't get too wrapped up in if you're doing it right or wrong. It's basically a very slow exploratory roll from your back to your belly. It's nice to initiate with that knee, but you can explore other ways of getting onto your belly and other ways of getting back onto your back. So just let it be playful, smooth, and notice how the body interacts with the floor and is supported by the floor. And then the next time you find yourself on your back in your X shape, pause. If you need to, find yourself back on your mat, go for it. It's pretty amazing where, especially if you do this with your eyes closed, you open your eyes and you're like, wow, how did I get all the way over here? This funny angle and in a different place and little travel. And then we'll just do the same on the other side. So we'll initiate, I'll talk you through it, and then you can just roll and explore on your own. Bend your left knee, slide it up toward the left side of the body, and then in an arch, bring the knee across the torso. Let the knee cross over. You're kind of in spinal twist here, and let your upper body roll into the position on the belly. Lift the chest, slide your left leg back over the right. Let the hips go first, and then find yourself on your back. And just explore this a couple of times. Bending the knee, letting it arch over to carry the hips, and then the torso onto the belly. Lift the chest, and then initiate the hips, guide the movement back onto your back. And just let go of right or wrong here and roll. Roll from your back to your belly to your back to your belly, and let it be joyful and exploratory. And then make your way onto your back. Whenever you're done, if you want to roll a little bit more, you can, or just find yourself resting in Shavasana. We're just going to return to the arch and flatten, which is where we started the practice today. We're going to extend the arch and flatten by lengthening one of the legs while we do it, and just experience how having one leg straight is going to affect the entire sensation in the body. This is how we'll close the practice. So from your Shavasana position, bend your knees. And we'll return to arch and flatten. So start by rolling your tail toward the mat and letting the natural arch happen in the body. Maybe the chin comes closer to the chest. And then do the opposite, flatten the spine, and maybe the chin opens up a little bit. Couple like that. Notice the breath, the quality of the breath. And then pause a moment and extend your right leg. Your left leg stays bent. As you begin to arch the spine, point your right toe and activate into the leg. And then flatten and release the engagement in your right leg. So a couple more like this. Point and arch, and then flatten and release. Point and arch, flatten and release. Just explore that motion. And then bend both knees. And rest, feel, breathe. Other side, extend the left leg. Begin to arch the spine by rolling the tail toward the floor and point your left toes. And then go the opposite, flatten. No right or wrong, just expanding the arch through the leg, basically, the arch of the spine into the leg. Letting the motion carry from the top of the head to the toes. And then bend both knees, rest, breathe, feel. Then straighten both legs. Shavasana. Rest, eyes closed. Tracing your imprint in the sand, returning to this imaginary beach. We can hear the waves, smell the ocean breeze, feel the warmth on your skin, feel your body imprinting in the sand. Notice if the imprint has changed in any way. And just give yourself a moment to just be, nothing to do. There is nothing for you to go back and live over, or fix, or feel regret about. Every part of your life has unfolded just right. And so, now, knowing all that you know from where you stand, what do you want? The answers are now coming forth to you. Go forth, enjoy, and get on with it. May you have a blessed new year full of abundance and joy and everything you intend for your life. Feel free to stay in your resting, present Shavasana. I will just end the practice and you can linger as long as you like. If anybody has any questions at all, I am present here to answer any questions. But I will just sign off after a few moments and let you continue on with your sense of presence.